So you're not driving it as far as you want to. In fact, this girl is out driving you, and this girl outdrives you, and this little thing outdrives you by a lot. Well, golf can be very humbling sometimes, especially when it comes to distance off the tee. But obviously, from these three examples, it must have very little to do with size and strength, or testosterone for that matter. And I'm here to tell you it has very little to do with age either. But what most golfers don't do when they swing the club is use their wrists properly, or less efficient than they could be using, and they're giving up 30, 40, 50, even 60 yards off the tee because of what they're not doing with their wrists. So let's talk about a few key points that are going to get you to move your wrists more supply and powerfully, and I'll give you a couple drills that'll help you train for it. But I'm sure by the end of this video, you're going to have the knowledge you need to go out there and get that ball out there a lot further. So the first thing I see when I'm working with a short hitter in person, is that generally they have poor grip. So first thing I'll definitely see is they're gripping more across the palm like this, and that their thumb ends up at 12 o'clock, and they've got a huge gap between the thumb and the rest of the hand. And on top of that, see, the right hand will end up like this, so they have a really bad grip to start with, which doesn't allow them right from the get-go to use their wrist properly. But I also see that most golfers who don't hit the ball as far as they want are squeezing the life out of the club. They are white knuckling it to death, and that also tends to restrict your ability to use your wrists. Remember that the swing is not a strength event. Just like I showed you in those young ladies swings earlier in the video, we're talking about someone who has half the muscle mass you do and a tenth of the testosterone that you do, and yet they're able to launch it out there 50 yards farther than a lot of you watching. And it's very humbling to see that. But let's tap into what they are using. What they're using is what we would call supple quickness. If you're a short hitter, most likely you're using rigid slowness. So the rigidness is coming in your hands. You're squeezing the life out of that club, and you can't be supple if you are rigid. So we've got to work on getting supple, and the first thing we've got to do is get that grip into the right structure. We're going to let it rest at the base of the fingers. We're going to let the hand wrap over further so that it meets up with the thumb in a crease, just like this. And then we're going to drop the grip pressure down. For some of you, it's like 80, 90%. You've got to drop your grip pressure. We really need to grip it so softly without letting go to where the club head starts to feel heavy. Until that thing starts to feel like an anvil to you, or a boat anchor, then you're gripping it too tight. So let's make that club feel heavy. Let it waggle back and forth with the wrists like this. Not pulling it through, just waggling it back and forth, nice and supply. And let's get a feel for suppleness. Without suppleness, we can't not have quickness. The next thing I see with short hitting golfers who don't use their wrist correctly, I see a lack of wrist cock on the way back. I see a big deficit. Big difference between a long hitter and a short hitter is how much they cock their wrists at the top of the swing. In general, a short hitter will get to the top of the swing and they'll look like this. So you can see there's not a lot of wrist cock here, maybe 45, maybe 60 degrees. But instead, you should be practicing a huge wrist cock in this case. But everybody can get more. You just have to start. I'm going to start with a stick, and I'm going to use just my left hand on the stick, and I'm going to use the index finger of my right hand, and I'm going to pull that wrist. Remember, wrists are made up of muscles just like all the other muscles in your body. They can be tight and they can be stretched. So let's do a little stretching of the wrist muscles on this side of the wrist by pulling on that and getting the wrist to cock. Look at that. That's like, 120 degree wrist cock there that I'm making. Some of you won't be able to go this far at first, but work on it. Muscle stretch over time. Now I've got so much more potential in the downswing to let go of that club head and pick up extra speed compared to this position at the top, which has very little or very limited ability to accelerate the club head. Now, once you do that stretching drill, it'd be fine to now kind of simulate some practice swings by setting it at the top with that, now the right hand matching, extra wrist cock, and swoosh. Set it, massive wrist cock, film yourself, see if you can get this kind of angle, and swat that thing. You can hear how loud that is because I've got so much potential, even though it's not even a full wind up. But I've got so much potential speed, and now the uncocking of the wrists, potential energy stored up in the angle. Now, just like I was showing you with the wrist cock exercise, you could hear that loud swoosh that I was making, and I want you to make sure you understand that getting high speed in a golf swing is not about strength and size. It's not about effort, really. It's more about quickness. And so you've got to make a paradigm shift here. You got to make a paradigm shift from trying to be strong through it and thinking it's some kind of power or almost a weightlifting type event, and instead think of it more as like a towel cracking or a whip cracking. This is a whipping move, and whipping needs limbs that are like this, super loose and supple, so that they can transmit the energy out from the center of your body out to the fingertips and out to the club head and multiply it on the way. That's exactly what the tip of a whip is doing. As the whip gets smaller in diameter out towards the tip, the same amount of energy is transferring out and therefore accelerating it because there's less and less mass. Same way we're built, out to the fingertips and then out to the club head, the shaft and club head, the lightest of all, and that's how we're going to get that whip. So think about it as going from that big wrist cock here to another big wrist cock here. And again, you can do the same exercise with the right arm, and you can really stretch the wrist muscles out and get it to really pin back like this. What most short hitters out there are doing are they're concentrating on trying to move this end of the stick. And that makes the club go slower. It's like it's flipped on its head. It's like a equation flipped on its head. Instead, you can flip it over and have it work for you if you don't try to make the handle move at all. So I want to give you now an exercise that you can do, and that is cock this thing up like this, but in front of you, and see if you can just articulate it 180 degrees or more around your body from here to here. Well, notice the handle of the club is staying right in front of me. Now, most people out there, give this a try in front of a mirror or like a plate glass window so you can watch yourself doing it. It's going to take a lot of discipline to not try to pull the handle through. See, look where the handle's finishing. This is the primary reason that you're hitting the ball so short, is that you're trying to make this end of the stick speed up. But what the best, longest hitters do is they make this end of the stick slow down, not speed up. So we're not trying to pull the handle through. We're trying to throw the head of the club, or the tip of the stick, around the handle end. This is a really good drill to start. Really simple, but it'll show you how the elbows fold and how the forearms need to cross over. And listen to that, I'm already getting a little bit of a swoosh going there, even though I'm not moving the handle of the club in space at all. I'm just using my wrists around their full range of motion in a supple manner, in a quick, explosive, bursting manner, the same way you would crack a towel, and I am just swatting. Just like that. Now what's interesting is the ramp up of that, call it torque or force, that you're putting from your hands into the grip to cause the wrist to uncock and the club to spin around the handle of the club actually is ramping up back here somewhere. So another way you can also do this drill, and you can feel really when the release timing is starting, is you would do it back here. So there's my big wrist cock, and of course, why don't I show you, and you can do this first without going fast, go slow. First go find the range of motion. So there's my big wrist cock there, and there's a big wrist cock to the right forearm, more than 90 degrees. So I've articulated that club head like 200 and plus degrees around the handle, but look, the handle of the club is still not advancing. So this is where a lot of short hitters get in trouble, because this is where they're trying to accelerate the handle down, pull the handle down into the ball strong, because it feels like it's the only way that you can hit it out there. It's how you translate in your own mind what somebody on TV or somebody that you've seen in person who hits at 300 yards is doing, and you're trying to chase that, but that's not how they're doing it. Do the same exercise that was in front of your body, and now let's do it back here. And you hear that swoosh again, and I'm throwing the head of the club around the tip of the club without advancing it. Let the pivot do that instead. So this looks really funky on its own. It looks like a massive cast, but now if you add it, look at this. I swat back here, and that's really where the force is ramping up. But I'm also in the midst of my pivot, so it all times out just correctly. Now, look at that angle. I've really got the angle pinned back 100, 110, 120 degrees, rehinged again. I'm looking for, trying to articulate as far around the wrist as I possibly can. The people who do that, like this young lady here, she doesn't even appear to turn her body that fast, does she? Doesn't even appear to have the strength to hit it out there, but yet, since she is doing everything right with the wrists, she's able to take what her body is supplying in terms of ground force and rotation, and she's able to multiply it because the wrists are supple, they're bursting quick, they're going through full range of motion, and she is very good at slowing the handle down into impact rather than trying to pull it and accelerate it into impact, which only slows this end of the stick down and makes you feel like you're more effortful. So let's look at a drive where I'm going to try to do everything I was just drilling, and it should look pretty effortless, and it should be out there pretty far if I'm doing all these things correctly. And there's a good long drive, but it didn't feel anything except a step of the weight and a kind of a whipping of the wrist through the ball, supple and quick. You know, I'm able to get the ball out there a little over 300 yards. Nicely done, without feeling like I'm straining all that much. All right, so try these drills and exercises and this paradigm shift of turning a pull or a strength move into an extremely loose, supple, whipping motion with a quick, high burst of explosive energy. I think you're going to be able to hit it out there a heck of a lot farther, and maybe even feel less effort to boot. Hey, thanks so much for watching all the way through the video. I'm Steve. Check out my website, hititlonger.com. Of course, you know, YouTube videos are not going to be the end all to your improvement. So at my website, hititlonger.com, you can get a lot of personalized coaching options there. Check it out, or email me at this address above, and I'm happy to help you out. As usual, I'll either see you in the next video, or I'll see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Everybody take good care.